Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Dearest Mother, Love Ruthie. Ruth Smallshaw Ray's Letters to Her Mother, 1951, Part 64. Hotel Commodore, Room 1456, New York City, New York, June 30th, 1951. Dear Mother, Daddy, and Bud. Well, hi. We're in New York, and I'm finally getting to see one place that I've wanted to for some time. I'm certainly glad that I waited to come and see it with John. Everyone said we should park the car and not drive in New York, but so far, John's done just beautifully and perfectly calm about it all. There is more traffic than Cleveland, but most streets are one way only. The Pennsylvania Turnpike was really something. About 200 miles of 4-lane divided highway, no crossroads at all, and 70 miles per hour limit, so we really made time. Had a near accident after the turnpike. We were stopped for a red light and a guy skidded about 60 feet and almost into the left front side. The cars were almost touching when he stopped short. Well, my first impressions are that I still like Cleveland better. Of course, we don't have these terrifically tall buildings and immense bridges, and it really is exciting to see, I think. We won't have a chance to do much, but hope to see a play and see a few of the interesting sights. We're right downtown next to the Chrysler Building and just drove by Central Park. I had a grim 4 days with John away in Columbus. He had a cold when he left, but seemed cheerful, and it was so good to see him driving up when he returned. Even better than when he arrived in Regina, and that was good. He said the bar exam got progressively tougher and was quite impressed with the dignity with which the whole thing was carried off. 582 fellows took it. One of the fellows that John drove back was taking it for the third time. He was going to law school when he married and quit in order to raise his family, put 3 through college, and has just finally finished after all these years. When I graduated, in my class was a man of 56, finishing and one finishing after 17 years of going to college, part-time of course. I had a lot planned to do and worked fine the first day John was gone, house cleaning, but developed a sore throat and of course was lonesome the next couple of days and got very busy shopping the day he came back. I enjoyed Daddy's letter and almost looked for one before we left. Good for you on the driving and glad Dad got his driver's license. I'm sure that you'll get a lot of pleasure from the car. Coming down here, I'm sure it's best to go via Estevan and through the United States, maybe around the Chicago traffic, except it's a shame for Bud not to see it. John's coming to after his nap. He's done a lot of driving, so a little weary. I will write again. Love, John and Red. The Commodore Hotel, room number 1456, New York City, New York, July 2nd, 1951. Dearest Mother, Daddy, and Bud. Oh, is this ever terrific? I'm so glad that I'm seeing New York with John and that I waited to come until now. It's like another honeymoon. It's been so exciting and we've seen so much. We took a sightseeing bus trip over the island, the boat trip around it, and went to the top of the Empire State Building to look down on it all. I was so thrilled to see the Statue of Liberty and the big ships. The Bowery was sad with all the drunks in the street, Skid Row. But it's amazing the number of new housing developments, 42 out of 56 planned, very modern and take care of so many people. We went to Radio City and saw the Rockettes and a terrific stage show. Amazing lighting effects. One underwater effect scene was created by having a movie of waves of the whole thing. Hard to describe, but beautiful. We saw Barbara Belle Guide's Time magazine cover in The Moon and Blue, a superb play. We had dinner at an outdoor umbrella table in Rockefeller Center. Saw a vaudeville play a vaudeville show too. Now after the excitement, we're heading for the peace and quiet of the Georgian Bay. Love, John and Red. 1560 Luxor Road, East Cleveland, Ohio, July 18th, 1951. Dearest Mother, Daddy, and Bud. There seems to be so much to say that I feel I could almost write a book. I've had such a wonderful vacation, and yet it's so nice to be home again. I'd have enjoyed staying at Kish Kadima all summer if John could have been there. It certainly was good to see him again. I was so excited to get back. Well, naturally, I was sorry to hear that you aren't coming this summer. I don't know where or how we'll be next year, but that will all depend on whether John changes jobs. We'll see. It's too bad that you didn't know sooner, so you could have come to our graduations yourself. Would you consider coming for a holiday by yourself, Mother? We'd certainly like to have you, and this coming month we'll have a lot of free time to spend with you. It would be very nice. You do sound as if you're really getting your money's worth out of the car in enjoyment, and I'm so happy for you. Did you visit the Pines in Saskatoon? I got your last letter the morning after I got back, yesterday, and so nice. John had forwarded the other up to the Georgian Bay. John's mother was also disappointed you couldn't come, and hoped that you might come by yourself, and we'd all spend a weekend with them. John and I are planning a weekend down there a week from Saturday. By that time I should have her canvas finished. Did I mention that Mrs. Ray asked me to paint an oil for above her mantel? The canvas is 30 by 30, so quite large, but already taking shape nicely. It's an autumn scene in rust roses and green shades with lots of white birches. I'm doing it from a small photograph. I really discovered myself up there in the Georgian Bay and enjoyed painting the scenery. Mrs. Ray and John both think that I captured the spirit of the place, and even Ted Zook said they were lovely and would like one. Ted really is an amazing man. John's family all have so much ability, drive, and are a very clever family. Ted will probably be in the next Who's Who. He's already been in the medical Who's Who. He specializes in glandular treatments for overweight and feeble-minded. His main achievement has been in the research background of the menstrual cycle, which they use so much now for birth control, and also in aiding conception. I was so surprised that he was the one. He was appointed by the Brush Foundation and worked with the help of 3 doctors between 1931 and 1936, and now it's getting recognition. As I've mentioned, Anne and Wayne Duff used it for 2 years, and then hit the first time they decided to have a baby. The Catholics, of course, advocated it. You take your rectal temperature every morning over a period of time and then plot a chart. Ted says you can tell the day after conception takes place by reading the temperature and charting it rather than waiting a month or so or using the rabbit test. He said a lot more about it too. He's also very cynical about the virtue of young people and really worried Mrs. Ray regarding Carol and her gang. He says it's terrific the way kids carry on. In one study of a high school, a wealthy district, Lakewood High, of 400 senior girls, 300 were not virgins, and close to 80 were pregnant. And he believes it's more general than parents imagine. He doesn't believe in letting kids go on beach parties, stay out so late in cars, and thinks we should all marry younger with parental guidance. He also thinks labor for women having babies is an unnecessary cruelty. He believes all babies should be born cesarean with no danger to either the mother or baby. He says women have had as many as 12 cesareans. His theory is that nature produces more seed than she expects to flourish, and many babies would have died in the old days that are now saved and lived with brain damage due to birth. He said that every case of cross eyes indicates some hemorrhage at birth, and that with cesareans we wouldn't have near the number of deaf, aphasic, spastic, or brain-damaged children due to birth injury. It's a thought. He also has a theory that animal fat, butter, milk, cream, ice cream, eggs, all produced for the reproduction of animals, has a substance, cholesterol, that he thinks is the substance that builds up and causes so many of heart attacks and coronaries. So we're trying to cut it out of our diet because of John's heart. Maybe you should consider it too, with all the butter you eat, Mother. We use oleo, which he believes is better for you. They can't publish these things until they're sure because of the terrific power of the dairy industry. It certainly is amazing to be with such a brilliant mind. He's only 48 and looks much younger. He quit smoking 15 years ago when he discovered what it does to you, and says beer is more harmful than whiskey because of the other things in it, but of course all bad to excess. Mrs. Ray said she thought you looked like about only 42, so trim and smart. Nice. Looking at Ted's youthful appearance and terrific energy, you can hardly doubt some of his ideas. He believes vitamins have done a lot for him. His home is lovely, one of the Van Swearingen estates mentioned in the article on Cleveland, I believe. Each bedroom has a bathroom of its own. He also has 350 acres of woods and has made the loveliest tables from his own cherry wood trees. He can do anything, has theories on dishwashing, and is a terrific cook. It certainly is interesting to see such a brilliant mind in action. I got the bedspread. Don't know what we'll do with it, though. It's pretty, but I'll never use it. It just seems so wonderful to have John come home at 6 o'clock, a real treat. John says I'm looking better than he's ever seen me. It's a wonderful world, and John's such a wonderful guy. Made some very good Scotch shortbread yesterday, also brownies and cherry pie and steak and onions. I don't know if you could consider it financially or not now, but any time you might like to come to see us and would like to fly, I discovered that there's an air coach comes directly from Montana that is much cheaper than regular flying, and I like the bigger plane better. I'd have gone that way last year if I'd had any way of getting up from Montana. Maybe Bud or Daddy could drive you down. It leaves Great Falls, Montana at 2:07 a.m. and or Billings, Montana at 3:50 a.m. and gets here to Cleveland at 3:19 that same afternoon. Good time. It costs only $77.44 one way from Billings, or $86.48 one way from Great Falls. Or how does that rate with Canadian fares down? I'll mail you our graduation photographs. I like to have them put in a double plain silver frame, but could only find sterling at $9 each a pair. Maybe there are more plentiful at home. Mrs. Ray said that she'd look for some for us too. She put that wedding picture of me smiling in a simple design silver frame, and I was surprised at how lovely it looked. What will Bud do with his holidays? Maybe he'd like to take a bus down to see us. Well, glad that you're enjoying the car so much. It certainly is a wonderful life. The girl with the glasses and the snaps is also a Canadian from Montreal and a teacher too. I think we're the only two Canadians teaching here. She reminds me a bit of Marion. Have you ever thought of moving to Toronto? I think it's a nice city and you could live in the suburbs and Bud could go to university too. Also visit me sometime and also be near that beautiful Georgian Bay area. I love you. Right. Love, John and Ruth. 1560 Luxor Road, East Cleveland, Ohio, July 24th, 1951. Dear Mother, Dad, and Bud, it seems quite a while since we've heard from you, but I guess you've kept busy with your various trips. We're so glad that you're enjoying the car so much. When I've ridden with John in the Cleveland traffic, I haven't felt that I ever would be able to drive in it. However, Friday night we went over a few blocks where there are no houses, and I practiced going around those few blocks. It's quite different from driving on the Florida beaches, and I had to get away from the sweeping wide turns I used to make. We went out again last night, and John told me to drive home, and I did. I was so thrilled going through stoplights with 3 lanes of cars. We're going to Sandusky Saturday, and he wants me to drive part way. I still have quite a bit to do on the picture, but it's coming along nicely. The birch trees that I put in yesterday were so much better that they made the first ones poorer looking, and I'd been proud of them. I am getting all sorts of babysitting in. I looked after Mary's baby Susan Lynn for 4.5 hours Friday while she went to the dentist, and an hour and a half while John took her shopping. Sunday we went on a picnic with Bruce and Jer Partridge, 2 old Oberlin friends of John's who moved to Berea a week ago from New York. They have Heather, age 2, and Eric, the same age as Mary's baby, 3 months. I looked after him in our car all the way back to Berea. The way he drank that bottle down. We're getting quite a gang of friends down here, near here, mostly John's old Oberlin gang. John reminds me of Bud. There's always some fellow phoning for us to go out or him to play golf. He's been so sweet. He doesn't go unless I have something I want to do myself, such as paint. His brother and dad are quite anxious to try to beat him at golf on Saturday. Ted Zook phoned last Wednesday and asked us to go out Saturday night, cocktail out at his home and then dinner and dancing at the Bronze Room of the Hotel Cleveland. I said, "How steep will this be?" And he said he'd take us. Well, I let John call him back, but he insisted that he treat us. It was certainly nice of him. The bill was close to $20. We must have him over. He has a very nice girl. Ted was divorced about 1.5 years ago. He also has a theory that cancer may be a communicative disease with a long incubation, such as leprosy. He said that syphilis could later cause an enlarged heart and death from it. I must get cracking here as I'm going to look after Susan Lynn for Mary for her last dentist appointment. It certainly is wonderful to have John coming home at 6 o'clock and spending our evenings together. I love you, John and Ruth. To be continued. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Good luck to you with your efforts in family history if this interests you, finding, preserving, and sharing old letters, diaries, and photographs, and interviewing elderly relatives while they're alive. You might consider checking out our website, Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray, at peterjray.com. So far, we've made 577 history videos in 7 areas: world history, American history, book reviews, poetic tours, Cleveland baseball, family history, and autobiography. You also might consider checking out our podcast, Adventures in History, which you can listen to on Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts, and Radio Public. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.